you're just going to burn out. Especially in a market like this, especially in the market that is coming from an economic standpoint. Like, you can't just sprint. Welcome to Loans Elevated, the podcast that brings you the latest industry news, expert interviews, and insightful discussions that will help you stay ahead in this dynamic market. I'm your host, Broch Lassig, and I've spent years in the trenches of the mortgage industry, helping individuals and businesses navigate the complex landscape of real estate financing.
I'm your co-host, TJ Heidenreich, and together we'll cover a wide range of topics, from business strategies that skyrocket your success to mindset and motivation that fuel your growth.
Okay, welcome back to our next episode. TJ and I are here together after several interviews, and the inspiration for this episode came from a meeting we had with our sales team. And I think it's very relevant, especially for those that are in the real estate and mortgage, anything to do with real estate. In that world, it's very relevant. And I think with the economic turmoil that is coming, in our opinions, it's probably going to be relevant for a lot of people. And this is this concept of how do you continually stay consistent in your efforts, especially in sales, without burning out, getting exhausted, and going through the emotional roller coaster that can ensue in the sales world. So we came up with this strategy that we think is really the answer, at least for TJ and I.
I feel like in most sales positions, you've got two things. You've got to catch the fish and you have to cook the fish. We've talked about a lot about this with our sales team. And oftentimes people get so caught up in catching the fish and they get all these fish and then they have to cook them, but they forget to do more catching. And it turns into this roller coaster business.
Or the opposite of that.
Right.
You're continually casting nets, continually trying to catch fish, and you're never cooking the fish.
Business.
So it screws up your reputation, the clients are pissed off, and really a lot of your efforts are for naught. And my answer when I was talking to the sales team of how to avoid this burnout or how to stay consistent and create this momentum that allows me to be successful in basically any market. Over the past 15 years, I've been able to remain successful in my sales job in every market, all different situations. So what I came up with was this idea that I run consistently at a 6,000 RPM pace. So I'm not running slow. I'm not at 2,000 or 3,000 RPMs. And TJ's very similar here as well. I'm not running slow at 2,000 or 3,000 RPMs. I'm running very fast. But I'm running at a speed that enables it's sustainable. I can consistently run at this speed and continually build that momentum so I never lose it. The alternative is so many people, and I was this person early on in my career. I think everybody, until you learn how to manage just the emotions that come along with a sales job, with commission, without any guaranteed income, self-employed people run into this same thing as well, is oftentimes the emotions drive what your energy looks like. For me, I've been able to just say, okay, I'm bought into this idea and I'm doing this day in, day out, period, end of story. I don't care what the market's doing. I don't care what happened at home this morning with the kids. I don't care if I got sleep, I didn't get sleep, if I worked out, I didn't work out. None of that matters. I am running at 6,000 RPMs, running the same play constantly. And many people, the alternative is they have a big fat paycheck. They make a lot of money one month in a sales job or a self-employed job. And so they coast and they put their feet up, and instead of running, they're running at, 1,000 RPMs and just barely making by. They're just kind of doing some work here and there, but they're kicking it because they got the paycheck. But then the paycheck runs dry. And what do? Oh, crap, I got to gear down, and I got to hit 9,000 RPMs.
The redlining.
Exactly. You redline. And then maybe you have another pop in a good month. You got some good income. Things are going good. You have a big pipeline of clients.
But
so
you
chill.
Can't continue to redline, though.
Exactly.
Because you're burnt out.
So the idea is, they go through this cycle of redline. Oh, cool, I want it. Now I can chill for a minute and kick my feet up, relax. I can coast. And then you redline. Soon enough, you're just going to burn out. Especially in a market like this, especially in the market that is coming from an economic standpoint. Like, you can't just sprint when the nerves are running and when the emotions are, you're nervous about finances or whatever. You can't just sprint and then coast and then sprint and then coast.
You can't run any business like that. I mean, imagine trying to hire by doing that.
100%.
the stress of running a P&L, there'd be no way.
No, yeah, for
Operating
sure.
like that.
It's miserable, but that's the emotion people attach to it, and that's what causes them to go through these cycles of revving things up and then coasting, and revving things up and coasting. And I think the magic is finding a way to ignore the emotional woes and buy into what you're doing, the play you're running, and just run that on a consistent basis. And I think this relates, and I want to understand, like, I want to get from your perspective, after I finish this thought, how you're doing this in your life and how you've done it, because you've been able to implement this very quick in your career. It took me a lot more time to learn here, but what I think about is not only do I do this in my business and allow consistent long-term results over a very long career at this point, but I also do this with my fitness. I also do this with my marriage. I also do this with my kids. I do this with my team. I do this with my sales team. I do this with my finances. And that looks like every single month I do a budget and I review the budget, whether I made good money and it's a fun experience, or I made bad money that month and it's a bad experience because I'm pulling money from savings or something like that. No matter what, I'm always running the play at a high level, high accountability, and I'm doing it. Like, we're cutting expenses every month. We're making adjustments with finances, with the marriage. It's a date night every single week. And we're talking about what's going on. How are the kids? How are you feeling? What do you need? You know, it's myself. It's my routine in the morning. Just because the kids got up early or we're up through the night and I'm exhausted when I wake up, it doesn't mean that I don't get my ass out of bed, drink my water, do my meditation, get my workout in, hop in a cold shower, and get my day started the way I need to, because I know that if I don't do that and I coast because the kids are going through a hard sleep regression, well, guess what? I'm going to get out of the habit of working out, and that coasting is not going to be good. Now what do I have to do? I have to ramp back up 9,000 RPMs, and I have to lift all the weight again. The momentum doesn't carry me through all of the different seasons of life. So anyway, that's kind of how I implement it in my life. But
yeah. And I got lucky and I was able to watch you do it. And so I really just had to copy and paste. But I think one thing that really sets you and us apart is the systems we've built, specifically in our business, that enables us to just stick to the plan and then make slight tweaks as we see fit.
Right.
For example, we really theme our days. Mondays, we come in. Yeah. We already have our lists dialed in on who we're talking to that day, what content we're pushing out, if it's a mass voicemail for the day, if it's a video, who we're talking to. We have our consultation set at the exact same times every single day. So that way it's very routine. But then as we see changes in our business, like as of right now, leads have been lower the past couple months. We know maybe we need to have a little bit less consultation time because we're not getting as many consultations in, and a little bit more prospecting time to make the dials. But we're not making these drastic changes where it's like, oh, crap, I don't have any leads this month. I'm doing no consultations. I'm just calling like a bat out of hell every single person I can to get the business.
Or more importantly is, oh, sweet, this week I got a bunch of, like this week was a busy week for consultations. I had clients in, a lot of consultation pre-approval appointments. I didn't say, hell yeah, man, I got this week's looking good. I'm not going to make any prospecting calls. Like, I was making prospecting calls just as if it was a week I had no consultations or very few consultations. And I mean, you bring up a really, really good point, because one thing I'll say is what allows me to consistently run this play, I think it's a lot of mental training. It's a lot of like just self-realizations of like, how do you control your own emotions? How do you get bought in? But I think the core of it is really a calendar, because I have like date night is on the calendar, kids stuff is on the calendar, bedtime for kids is on the calendar, workout is on the calendar, all the crap I do at work is on the calendar. This podcast right here is on the calendar. Everything is expected. And so like we are controlling what we can control. That way when uncontrollable things come up, we don't go into a frenzy and allow the emotions to take over.
And one additional thing on top of that is we track everything. That way we don't operate out of fear.
Exactly, because we know the KPIs, the key performance indicators that matter to us. We know what it is. So we know if there are lighter contracts or lighter deals or something, well, we're watching the data and we already adjusted for this 2 weeks ago. We know that the results are happening today, but we saw it 2 weeks ago, we adjusted. Now the results in 2 weeks are going to be there, and we just, we know it's going to happen. So it's way less emotionally driven. But, you know, what I want to leave off with is this notion. just imagine, like, in order to win in business, you have to be going fast
100%.
and hard. Like, you got to be making your sales calls. You got to be meeting with the clients. You got to be innovating. You have to be understanding, like, how does social media play a role in my business? How does AI play a role in my business? All these things, like, you got to be on top of it. You can't just be a slouch. So, number one, you got to run at a fast pace, but you don't want to sprint when emotions are high and you're stressed out and freaked out and money's low, whatever. All these things, you don't want to sprint and then coast when it becomes easy, because you're just going to be in this constant cycle, never ending, of sprint and die and sprint and die. And then there's going to be the occasional, every few months, burnout, depression, exhaustion, frustration. You're not going to have a consistent team because you're emotionally volatile. Like, nothing can be consistent. Your relationships at home can't be consistent unless you run at a high pace, but you don't allow yourself to coast either. That way you don't have to sprint and burn yourself out. Anyway, I hope this concept makes sense.
One additional thing on my end too is, because if you're sprinting all the time, you're not able to adapt. Prime examples of this is, we were planning on having a guest come in for this podcast.
Right.
And if we were 100% planning on them coming in and they didn't come in, we'd just chalk it up and say, okay, screw it, we're not doing the podcast. We'll see you next week. But because we're at this pace, we were able to pivot, make quick
the reason
adjustments.
is we're at this pace. So, for example, we're at this pace with our sales team. Because we're at this pace with our sales team, I have a backup plan and an idea that we come up with in 2 minutes to bring you this content today. This was not the plan today. So it's because we're running at a quick
100%.
pace and we're always prepared, basically.
100%.
But it also enables us to go on vacation, to chill, to not work long forever hours, to really not work a lot of weekends. It enables us to live the lifestyle we want, because when we're working, we're running at a fast pace and not running in chaos, not running by the rhythm of our emotions. We're just running the play that we've decided we want to run, and it's proven it will create success long term. So anyway, I hope this is helpful for you guys. If there's anything you want from us, anything that this inspires, and you're like, man, I'd really like to talk to them about this one issue that I'm facing or whatever, if we can help, we would love to help. This is what gets us jazzed up. We love helping our sales team. We can definitely help you if you have any questions. So hit us up. And if you're not following us everywhere on all platforms, be sure you're following us at Loans Elevated. But thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. For more industry insights, follow us on all platforms at Loans Elevated.
And to get in touch with our team, call or text 801-713-4000 or visit loanselevated.com.